Again.
And joining us now with his reaction to last night's debate, former speechwriter for President George W. Bush, Mark Thiessen. Good to see you, Mark.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. I'm doing just fine. We all are. So give us your evaluation of what it was like last night. Who won?
Oh, I think Mitt Romney won. I think he showed fight that he didn't show in the two South Carolina debates. In fact, I'll tell you, if we had seen this Mitt Romney in South Carolina, the result of that election might have been very different.
Well, I think, don't you think, Mark, too, the crowd not helping Newt Gingrich? He seems to get inspired by the crowd and raises his game. They were quiet last night.
They were quiet, and Newt does play off the crowd, that's true. He got two standing ovations in South Carolina. But the most important thing, I think, was that Romney was fighting back. I mean, what worried people last week who wanted to support Romney was they couldn't see him taking the fight to Obama. He was sitting back while Newt Gingrich was taking a page out of Obama's playbook and doing this attack on Bain Capital that's right out of Michael Moore in the Obama playbook. And Mitt Romney couldn't defend capitalism against Newt Gingrich. So people said, how's he going to defend capitalism against Barack Obama? Sure. Last night we saw a guy, you could see Mitt Romney last night taking the fight to Barack Obama for the first time, and that's critical.
Absolutely, Mark. And there were two lines of attack that Mr. Romney really lit into Newt on. One was about his speakership and how 4 years after he got the job, he was booted out by his own people. And the other was the over $1 million that Newt Gingrich and company wound up from Freddie Mac. Here's a little, if people missed it, it was on another channel last night. Here's the exchange. Watch.
We have congressmen who also say that you came and lobbied them in favor
of them.
You have congressmen who say that you came and lobbied them with regards to Medicare Part D. At the same time, your senator was taking in contributions.
You just jumped a long way over here, friend.
Well, another area of influence peddling.
No, you know. Let me be very clear, because I understand your technique, which you used on McCain, you used on Huckabee, you used consistently. Okay? It's unfortunate, and it's not going to work very well because the American people see through it. It is not correct to describe public citizenship, having public advocacy as lobbying. Every citizen has the right to do that.
Here's why it's a problem, Mr. Speaker. Here's why it's a problem. And that is, if you're getting paid by health companies, if your entities are getting paid by health companies that could benefit from a piece of legislation, and you then meet with Republican congressmen and encourage them to support that legislation, you can call it whatever you'd like. I call it influence peddling.
How devastating was that, Mark?
That was hugely devastating because Newt is trying to rally the outsiders, the conservatives outside Washington, and Romney painted him as an inside Washington K Street lobbyist, essentially influence peddler. I think it was very devastating from a substantive point, but it was also devastating from a stylistic point. Is that Newt was very defensive. He attacked him for saying, "Look, I know your technique and all this." He looked bad, and Romney was just sat there and he delivered it like a prosecutor.
And Mark, also, there's the Florida component. How many people in the audience and watching across Florida were impacted in a negative way by Fannie or Freddie?
No, it's exactly right. I think it's probably the worst thing you could possibly be is putting aside whether you're lobbying and even on the healthcare stuff, to be painted as a lobbyist for Freddie Mac in Florida is probably the worst moniker you could have attached to it.
So as a speechwriter, Mark, here's what I'm interested in, because I think from our emailers and just from contact with our viewers this morning, the majority of the people say that they don't necessarily care about this inside baseball kind of discussion. They would have rather seen the candidates talking more about their policies moving this country forward and attacking President Obama. So do viewers actually care about these intricacies? They're very important, but do they care big picture?
I think they do, and even if they might not realize it. Look, everybody always says they hate negative campaigning, but anyone who's been in the business of politics knows that negative campaigning is what moves numbers. And the fact is, look, they've been focusing on Barack Obama for a long time. Barack Obama isn't on the stage. It's really easy to beat up a guy who isn't there to respond to you. What you saw yesterday was Mitt Romney for the first time taking it to his primary challenger, delivering blows, receiving responses, parrying back, and you could see him doing that to Barack Obama on the stage.
And let's see if
so that was why it was very important.
Right, and let's see if the polls reflect that change that you've pointed out. Now, another topic that came up, there were some topics I really wonder why we were even listening to them, but one was immigration. Matters a lot to the people of Florida, illegal immigration especially.
Sure.
How do we handle it with all these people here? Mitt Romney coined a new phrase. Let's listen.
The answer is self-deportation, which is people decide that they can do better by going home because they can't find work here because they don't have legal documentation to allow them to work here. And so we're not going to round people up.
Citizens, arrest on yourself. I hereby arrest myself.
Deputize the planet.
I know what he's trying to say, but that's very interesting. He threw that word out there.
Yeah, well, he's 100% right. I mean, look, we're not going to have massive roundups of every illegal immigrant under any circumstances in this country. It's just not practical. It's not going to happen. How do you deal with the illegal immigrant population who is here? What you do is you make it impossible to get a job unless you're a legal citizen or you have legal residency or the right to be here.
But didn't they try that, Mark? Didn't President Bush try that right before he left office?
We really haven't tried it in the way that it needs to be done. I mean, look, if you really put E-Verify in, if you really have penalties on employers for hiring illegal immigrants, and you make it impossible for people to find work who don't have legal status, they're going to go home and go someplace where they can find work.
Hey, what does this do to the Newt momentum? Going into Florida, he was on fire after South Carolina.
Yeah, I think he got a little water thrown on his fire yesterday. I think Romney is fighting back, and what people wanted to see was, can Mitt Romney fight back? For 2 debates, he sat back and was a punching bag and said, well, I'm just going to focus on Barack Obama. Well, now he's fighting back, and that's important because it means he can take it to Obama.
Mark, I'm going to check your paperwork, and if everything lines up, you're going to come back for another segment. Is that all right?
All right, sounds good.
As long as you're here legally. After the break,
got status. That's right.
former presidential speechwriter weighs in on what President Obama might say during